I just didn't even want to do this anymore. I didn't even want to go to law school because I didn't think I was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, like, no, like, this is not just for you, this is for your family. This is for everyone looking up to you. This is for everyone that you told that you want to be a lawyer. Like, you can't let these people down. You can't let these people think, oh, wait, like, she's not going to become one. You can't give them a reason to, you know,
to doubt you.
Exactly. And so, for example, my undergrad wasn't, like, top 10. My law school wasn't top 10. I still ended up at the top law firm.
Woo! Like I said, you don't take advice, you take feedback. I heard that from... Welcome to Untouched Potential! This is my first ever episode of Untouched Potential, where it's a podcast basically explaining different type of stories, sharing different type of stories of people who've reached success the way that they feel that they've, you know, reached it with their hard work and their courage and going through all these obstacles, but being able to, you know, beat the status quo, beat the statistics. And so I'm here with my dearest sister, Samantha Sarah Doss. Yes, the whole government. I'm giving it to you guys. And I'm really excited for this first interview that I have because I know Sam's story and I know her passion. And I just think a lot of you guys can benefit from her, realizing that you don't have to have everything perfect. You know, like your resume might be perfect, but you might have that, you know, that LSAT score, that MCAT score, that GRE, that might not be the typical statistic to get you into that door. But with that motivation, with different type of circumstances, you're able to really achieve everything that you need to. So again, this podcast is for you guys to use it to help you on your journey, you know, use our stories as a blueprint to help you guys reach that goal that you guys want, you know? So yes, so Samantha Sarah Doss, this is my younger sister. I know who she is, but you got tell the audience, the listeners, those who are on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple, wherever you're listening or watching, who is Samantha Sarah Doss?
Okay, you keep saying my full name. I get it. Yeah, so I'm Samantha. I am a third-year law student now, so it's my final year. I am a daughter of two Haitian immigrants, and so, you know, growing up, you know, education was really important to us. I also grew up in a Christian household, and so, you know, religion has always been important in the center of our lives, kind of how we move. Yeah, I think as we go on, I can share more about myself, but that's just like a loaded question, though.
Yeah,
like,
it is a loaded question. Who is Samantha? So there's one thing that you mentioned that I want to like tackle is the idea of living in an immigrant household. And so I think a lot of people can relate to the, you know, the burden of caring from our parents, of the high expectations they have. So what do you think, mom and dad, you know, growing up, what was the one thing that really made you do what you needed to do? Yeah,
so education obviously was really important because, you know, being Haitian immigrants and coming from a third world country, they just want to see you successful. And they see success as, you know, having a job either in the medical field or the law field. So I remember growing up, they would look at her and they'd be like, you're going to be the doctor. They looked at me, you're going to be the lawyer. They looked at my little sister, you're going to be a doctor. She didn't listen. But she wants to be a lawyer, you know, like me.
Whatever.
Yeah, so that was kind of like their expectation in their mind. And, you know, being the obedient daughter I am, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer. Very obedient.
Oh, goodness.
And so that's kind of like what I had in mind growing up. Like, okay, my parents told me to be a lawyer. That's what I'm going to do. Like, I feel like I was like pleasing them until I went to high school. I took this like common law class and we had a mock trial. And then I was like, okay, let me just take the easy way out and just be a witness. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Like, if I actually want to be a lawyer, maybe I should understand like what it is to be a lawyer. So I'm like, you know what? Let me sign up to be a lawyer and see how it is. So I decided to be a defense lawyer. You know, I was prepping for a trial or whatever. And, you know, I was really shy in high school, but I'm just like, I want to give the best performance I can. And, you know, when I went up, I think everyone was shocked. I was shocked at myself. I was like, oh my gosh, you did it, girl.
I can't stand
and
you.
So even my teacher was just like, oh my gosh, Samantha, like as soon as you like did what you had to do, like the whole room was like silent. Like the prosecution side like realized like they like lost the case, and that's when I realized like, wow, like I'm actually really good at this. Like I can actually see myself being a lawyer. Like it's not just for my family anymore or for my parents. It's like for me. Like I was actually good at it. I found like a passion for it. So I'm just like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna do when I get to college. Like I'm gonna like actually pursue this career.
Wow, that was your breaking point. That was your breakthrough, not your breaking point. Your breakthrough was that experience, and it really touched you. So explain how it was like going into college. What did you major in? What college did you go to? How is the process of like being like going into law school?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, UMass Amherst. Zoomass. And I majored in legal studies just because I knew exactly like I wanted to go to law school, so I might as well just get a background in law. However, if you do decide to go to law school, you do not need to have like a pre-law track. Like there's people who have bio majors, you know, chem majors. Like you do not need to have like a legal studies field. And so, but like what I did was I obviously just majored in legal studies, and then I minored in sociology and economics. I was also interested in like business, and then like I had like a letter of specialization in social law and justice and a certificate in criminology. So I just did everything of the law just so I can see exactly like what I'm getting myself into. And so like that's what I focused on. But by like the people who are the colleagues that I'm with right now in law school, like, come from different backgrounds. Like, there are people who were teachers, there are people who were in the education field. It's not just, you know, people who were just, like, interested in law when they were in college. So
you see, I feel like the beauty with law school specifically is you can do anything before you decide to be a lawyer. And unlike when it comes to medicine, like you kind of have to have a track and kind of know, and like you can't really divert from that track. But when it comes to law school, like I could literally drop med school right now and go to law school.
100%. 100%. And there's actually more law schools who are accepting the GRE because they realize that a lot of people are coming from different backgrounds, and so obviously the standardized test to get into law school is the LSAT, but because they want a variety of people to come into law school, they open the GRE as an option.
You see, people don't know that. So
it's not as common, and it's not like every law school. But.
So let's talk about how you know that, because let me tell you, I think one thing for sure is that growing up, you're told that Black people aren't good at standardized testing. You know, like I didn't do well on my MCAT, you didn't do well on your LSAT as well as you wanted to. But like the one thing I want to squash with that is this: when you allow that to really imprint on your mind, you inhibit yourself from actually being a good test taker. What, like, being a genius isn't born, right? That's something that's built. And so I just want to, you know, say that right here and now, is that you can be a good test taker regardless of your, you know, your race, regardless of where you come from in your background. You might need a little extra more resources because certain people have been, you know, bred up to be good test takers, but it's not something that's not achievable, because once you say it, you start to believe it, and once you believe it, you start to act it. So tell yourself you're going to be a good test taker. Tell yourself you're going to work through the triumph, you know? So, because I know that's something that me and you both struggled with. And so let's talk, why don't you share your story with the LSAT and how that went?
Yeah, so when I was a junior in college, that's when I was studying for my LSAT, and I did like a self-study. I didn't take a course, and I realized that I was like, oh wait, maybe I should have taken a course, because it was really hard self-studying, because like you have to discipline yourself and make a schedule, and I was just, you know, I was trying to, but it was just really difficult. I took a lot of practice exams. I was not doing well. But I realized, like, I have to take the test if I'm trying to go straight into law school, because it's like, I don't know what else I'm going to do with my life. Like, I've always pictured law school right after college. Like, I don't know what to do if I don't go to law school. So, you know, I took the LSAT knowing I wasn't ready for it, but I took the LSAT, and of course, you know, I failed. My score was, no. And so when I took it and I got my score back, I was super discouraged. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get into law school with this score? Like, I literally like looked up law schools that would like accept my score, and it was like very few. Like, honestly, like I don't even know. Like, I barely got into law school, guys. And then I realized, like, I can't, send out my score. Like, I'm going to have to take it again. And then I'm just like, I don't want to take this again. Like, this test gave me so much anxiety. Like, I just knew in my heart that, like, I could not sit there again for another 4 or 5 hours taking that test. So I decided to look up, law schools, like, different options of, like, requirements for law school. And that's when I found out about the GRE. And I was like, oh, okay, this is different. The GRE kind of reminded me of the SAT, had math in it. I was really good at math at the time. And then I'm just like, okay, you know what? Let me switch gears and study for that instead. Yeah. And so that's when I decided, I made the decision for myself to take the GRE instead of retaking the LSAT, because I knew if I retook the LSAT, it just wasn't gonna go well for me. And law schools are just gonna say, damn, she's just bad at taking the LSAT. So I'm like, let me just try my chances with a different test and see how that went.
And you did that, I feel like, in January after your application was sent.
Yeah, so only a few schools accepted the GRE, so I had already sent my application with the LSAT with just like 2 schools that is only accepted the LSAT, and then I waited to take the GRE and send in my application.
So were you considered a late applicant? Because I feel like with med school, you have to be one of the early applicants to beat out everyone else.
Yeah, with law school, it's different. It's rolling admissions. So, yeah, like you have up until the deadline. So
okay, and so you took the GRE, and how did that go?
The GRE was so much better. Like, I did not have anxiety for that test. It was so much easier to study for myself, and I did fairly well. And so I'm just like, okay, this is better. This is good. And so I took the GRE, got my score, and then I sent it to my schools, and I was ready to go.
And then, so how did that? I remember when that was going on, and you were visiting different schools, and a lot of schools like we're trying to tell you might have to retake the LSAT. I remember one time, like, she got a letter, and like she got a phone call saying, like, we like your application, but your LSAT, and they're just like, retake the LSAT again and we'll consider you. And I remember you called me just crying, saying, like, I don't want to do this anymore. What was going through your head?
Well, yeah, like you said, I just didn't want to do it anymore. Like, I didn't want to take the LSAT again, so I was just like, well, that school is out of question, because I didn't want to say, like, I gave up, but, like, it takes, like, a lot in you to study for a standardized test that that you already are at a disadvantage of. And so I just knew that I just didn't want to do that. And so I only applied to 4 schools, so I really tested my luck.
4 schools?
Yeah, I only applied to 4 schools. I had 2 safeties, 1 realistic, and then 1 reach school. And then, so it was one of my safeties that told me to retake the test. Like, they liked my application, but they only saw that I took it once. Like, are you considering taking it again? And I'm like, I hung up and started crying. So I'm like, I'm not taking it again. And then with my other safety, I like had a whole visit, was talking to like professors. I could really see myself at this school, and I thought I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna get in. I have a connection. And then I got waitlisted. And I'm like, oh gosh. And then my reach school denied, like automatic. I'm pretty sure my application was sent maybe like a week or 2 later, denied. I'm like, okay, they didn't even look at my application. And then literally my only hope was that 3rd school, which was Suffolk, that I go to now. And so, yeah, I honestly, like, when I say, like, I barely got into law school, but I'm here now and I'm thriving, so.
Thriving. And then with Suffolk, they actually asked to do an interview.
Yeah, so they asked for an interview, and normally with law schools they don't do that. So I mean, okay, they saw that I didn't do all my LSAT, but I like did good on my GRE, so they probably trying to like figure out what is
happened.
That.
Yeah.
And so I had an interview with them. They loved me, of course. I love them. And they were just kind of like asking me questions like how I did studying and like what was like my method, and like I told them I was just like honest, like. I studied for the LSAT. I realized, standardized testing is obviously like could be a barrier for, people of color, people in marginalized communities. And so I've really struggled with the LSAT. And so I decided to take a different avenue. And that's why I started studying for my GRE. And, I put time and effort into that. And the score showed for itself that, I did fairly well in that. So it was a good conversation with them. And then they told me, oh, like, if you wanted a scholarship, you have to take the LSAT again. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go.
Here we go.
But yeah, so And then like maybe like a few days later, I got an acceptance letter, and I'm like, yes.
I think that is like God right there. That really like held that door for you, because no one would have like we all thought you were going to go to that safety in Rhode Island, and then to think that Suffolk, you know, that journey to getting to Suffolk was only by God's grace. And I'm so proud of you. And I didn't realize how hard you worked in your studies until seeing you trying to get into law school, and see the determination in you, the pain that you had to go through, knowing that the LSAT was something that was like your David and Goliath, you know. And I think you definitely use those stones. If you guys don't know the reference, read the Bible. JK, but look it up and see what I'm talking about. But basically, you really tackled that door, and to really allow you to get to where you need to be. And now, I just want to say, she's thriving right now in law school. Why don't you tell them, how is Samantha Dodds?
I'm a third year right now, but when I was a first year law student, of course, I was hitting the library every single day, like nonstop. Of course, there were some days where I was lazy and I had a short day, went home at like 3, 4, but I was mostly to the library, like, let's say like 8, 9, latest 10. I feel like a lot of people say like, oh, law school, you're going to be at the library until closing time, whatever. I think law school is how you make it to be. It's your own experience. I've gotten a lot of, you know, different advice from people saying like, it's going to test you. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be super difficult to get an A. But, you know, someone gave me advice and said, don't let other people's experience be your own experience. And I really took that to heart and, you know, tackled law school how I best saw fit. And so with my first year, you know, I did what I had to do, went to the library, and my first semester I finished with all A's. And so I was like, wow, like, okay, I'm good at this. And, you know, I got jurisprudence award for one of my courses, civil procedure. That means like I was the #1 student in that class.
Wow.
And so I'm like, wow, okay, so like I am qualified. I can do this. And then after my first year completed, I finished, you know, top like 9% of my class. And so I was awarded to participate in the on-campus interviews. And with on-campus interviews, it's like a bunch of big law firms, and only people who are at the top of your class, you know, get offered for a screening interview or a callback interview. So because of COVID, though, everything was kind of delayed and pushed back. But as soon as the OCI process opened for September, I quickly decided to do it, because like they had 2 separate ones, one in September, one in January because of COVID. But I'm like, I'm going to participate in the first one because I want to get this over with. And so I decided to participate in the first one, and then, you know, had some interviews. Thankfully, by God's grace, I got a summer associate position at Ropes and Gray.
Let's talk about it. Ropes and Gray. We're talking about someone who failed her LSAT, who barely got into law school, and then kicked butt extremely. Like, you showed them that it's not a test that's going to justify that you're intelligent or not. It's not an exam that's going to show that you can be able to be competent in the work that is being given to you. It's your hard work ethic. It's the grind that you put there. And you grinded. You stayed at the library. You wanted to prove that, you know what, accepting me wasn't a mistake. It was the best decision you made. And now someone, by the grace of God, they literally interviewed you because they're like, there's something about this person. And the fact that you went out of your way, you took the GRE, and now you are summer associate at Ropes and Gray?
Yeah.
The #1 corporate law firm in Boston? Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about a Black woman at that. A Black woman at, how do you feel like being, like, I feel like, are you one of the only Black women in your class? How is like having a community at Suffolk? How do you think they do a good job at that?
So growing up in Waltham was very, you know, white. So I'm actually used to being, you know, one of the only person of color in a room. And so with Suffolk, obviously I see that. But it doesn't bother me because I've been, you know, accustomed to that. So it's not like something where I'm like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to fit in, because I grew up like this, so I know how to, you know, have these conversations with people, how to act, how to, you know.
Do you feel like you're code switching a lot?
I think because I grew up in this environment, like this is just like how I act, so like I don't really feel like it's a code switch. Like it's not a culture shock to me to see there's only, you know, white colleagues around me. So yeah.
So how was your summer internship at Ropes and Gray?
It was amazing. Oh my gosh. Honestly, I love the community there. And this year's cohort was actually very diverse, which I was extremely happy to see. There was Black, there was Asian, Indian, like there was so many different people, and it was just good to see that like Ropes and Gray really, you know, made an effort for this class to be diverse. They even said it was the most diverse class that they had.
Wow.
For the summer associates. So I was like really pleased by that.
And I feel like we were getting so many little gifts, like literally every other week you were getting like either chocolates, you were getting like wine delivered to you, you're getting like living bakery cookies delivered to you. You had all these events. I feel like Ropes and Gray really cares about their employees.
Yeah, so they make it a point, you know, because we were virtual and everything was online, they wanted to keep us engaged and have these different summer events. So they did send us, you know, different things, and we had Zoom meetings, like a Zoom wine tasting or a Zoom chocolate tasting, just to keep us engaged. And so I think that's just a testament to how, you know, Ropes and Gray cares for their associates.
And so what is next for Samantha?
Well, I received a full-time job offer after I graduate.
Where at?
At Ropes and Gray.
That's my girl.
And so now I'm just deciding whether or not I want to stay in Boston or go to DC. So I guess just stay tuned. Find out.
I just can't believe that I'm just still on the fact that you didn't even pass your LSAT.
Why you keep bringing that up?
No, because I think a lot of people need to understand, like, it's not the end-all, be-all. Look at this Black woman, right, who, despite the odds, landed a job at the #1 law firm in Boston.
Yeah. Honestly, like you said, it's just about your work ethic and how much effort you put into it. Because I didn't do well on my LSAT, I just didn't let that become a barrier for myself in law school. So I still participated in, you know, a bunch of stuff in law school. I participated in moot court, and I became part of the journal. And, you know, thankfully, now I'm running the journal. I'm editor-in-chief.
Let's talk about it. You're editor-in-chief. I remember last time you were even, like, you did a summer internship at Harvard for, like, a health law clinic.
For the Harvard Clinic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like your resume is phenomenal. And again, I know you hate me bringing it, but it's just like you knew that there was one thing that lacked, and it was the LSAT. So you made sure everything else fell in place.
Yeah, and honestly, when you're in law school, your LSAT score doesn't matter. They don't care. It's really just like your grade. If you go to a school that's obviously not like top 10, your grades matter. And so your first year, you really do have to like kick butt in order to set yourself up. But like that's why they say their first year is the most important year. But once you know, overcome it and do well, it really does set you up to succeed throughout your law school career and, you know, after you graduate as well.
Oh, that's amazing. What keeps you going? Faith, family, friends, self-motivation. When you feel like you are like at a point where you have a wall and you don't know how to break through it, what helps you?
I definitely think my family really keeps me going because, you know, like I said, growing up, my parents always wanted me to be a lawyer, and later on I found that passion to become a lawyer for myself. But then I realized that it's not just for me, it's for my family, it's to make my family proud. And that's something like I don't want to disappoint my family, and I don't want to disappoint any other people looking up to me and saying like, oh wow, like this girl can do it, I can do it too. And so that's what keeps me going, where I'm just like, even though when I want to give up or thinking like I can't study anymore, I don't care about this, I realize like, no, like I'm not just doing this for myself so I can have a good job, but it's to take care of my family. It's to, you know, help other people, give other people inspiration or motivation.
Oh, I love that. You want to help me? You want to help me with these loans after you become a big baller from Ropes and Gray?
Oh, that was the question?
Yeah. Yeah. She just looked at me as a blank stare because she's like, I'm not giving you a penny. Thanks, sister. Thanks. But what advice would you give someone who was in your shoes? Someone who failed the LSAT? You hate when I mention it. Well, no, what advice would you give someone?
Honestly,
who wants to work at the #1 law firm in Boston?
The advice I would give, honestly, is literally don't give up. Like, there were so many times where I wanted to give up, where I thought, like, maybe law school just isn't for me. Like, maybe, like, there was a point where I just didn't even want to do this anymore. I didn't even want to go to law school because I didn't think I was good enough. And then I realized, like, no, like, this is not just for you. This is for your family. This is for everyone looking up to you. This is for everyone that you told that you want to be a lawyer. Like, you can't let these people down. You can't let these people think, oh, wait, like, she's not going to become one. You can't give them a reason to, you know,
to doubt you.
Exactly. And so I think just knowing who you are, knowing what you're passionate about, keep going after your dreams. Like, do not give up. And don't, like, that advice that person gave me, do not let anyone else's experience be your experience. Don't let that determine how you're going to do in law school. I had mentors. I had people telling me, like, yeah, no, you're probably not going to get an A. It's really hard. You're going to be in the libraries for hours.
And now look.
Civil procedure, the hardest class. Like, I got jurisprudence. I got all A's. I'm here where I'm at right now. And so it's just putting your best foot forward. I think that's like the most important thing that you can do.
I love that. What you said right there really just screams that you can't allow other people's experiences to justify what your experience is going to be. And that person really just set that tone for you, and you really showed out that, okay, you didn't get an A, but why are you putting that on me? Exactly. A lot of times, like I said, you don't take advice, you take feedback. I heard that from someone on another podcast, and he was talking about how sometimes advice could be, you take it and you realize that it doesn't apply to your personal life. 100%. But when it's feedback, like when you have an essay and your professor saying, I think you should move this sentence here, but you know the vision you have for that paper, and you know that sentence belongs there, so you keep going at that paper and you leave that sentence, and then later on it all works and fits together. So please, guys, please don't allow other people's, advice, right, to deteriorate your goals, because a lot of times it could really put a negative cloud and not allow you to reach that success, because you feel like you can't because so and so said it was so hard, and then you accept that to be your reality.
Yeah, and I also, like, whenever I do give advice to people, I always say just take it with a grain of salt, because the advice that I got wasn't my experience, but like my experience could be not someone else's experience. Like they could find law school to be extremely hard and hate it and need extra help and extra work. So whenever I do talk to people, I say take my advice, take any advice you hear with a grain of salt, because your experience is your own. It's how you make it to be, and so it's your own journey. Not everyone's journey is going to be the same.
Exactly, it's not going to be the same. But I think I love your journey, because it shows how through triumph you were able to still succeed, and you were able to find the silver lining in everything, and someone saw that potential in you, and you tapped into your untouched potential. Bang! I'm just so I have a couple more questions. You guys, this is a sentence that I love so much, and I will be asking everyone on this podcast this sentence. So if you want to be a part of this podcast one day, just make sure you have the answer to this sentence. So when I interview, you'll be ready to go. Success won't taste so good without failure served as appetizers. I literally live by this, because it's right. Like, success won't taste so good if you didn't fail at something, because now it feels so sweet that you were able to succeed. So, Sam, what was your failure that you believed allowed you to get this success?
The LSAT. I mean, you said it throughout the whole entire podcast. You know the answer.
I do. Today?
Like, that was literally the biggest hurdle that I had to climb, was that test. Like, in order to get into law school, you need a test and you need a good GPA. I had the GPA, I didn't have the test score, and so I had to overcome it. I decided to take another route, did the GRE, and I was still able to get into law school. I wouldn't recommend only applying to only 4 law schools.
That was God right there.
Yeah, it was literally God.
But wow, he loves you.
Yeah, so
he's playing favorites at this point.
But yeah, I think that was like my biggest failure, but like I overcame it, because when I got to law school, I put in the work, and literally I have not failed in law school. Like, I literally like if I do say so myself, my transcript is amazing. My resume is superb. Like the experience that I'm able to have, it just shows that, a standardized test, that one failure that I had doesn't determine like the type of person I am.
Ooh, say that again.
The test, the one failure I had does not determine who I am.
Preach. Amen. Because at the end of the day, you tapped into that untouched potential of yours, and it shows out for itself. You're now working at the #1 law firm. And if y'all didn't hear it the first time, Ropes and Gray. My sister's getting a Ropes and Gray salary.
Look it up.
No, I am so proud of you. Words can't explain how amazed I am at your hard work ethic, and being by your side and seeing this, I'm extremely just a proud bigger sister. I love you so much, and I'm here to root for you forevermore.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And a sneak question that I want to sneak in is, what would you do if you could do anything in this world without any restraints, without any failures? What would it be?
What would I do?
What would you do? What would you be? And if you could do anything and not have no one tell you no.
I think I'm doing it right now, honestly. I think like being able to go to law school, even though I wasn't in, even though, for example, my undergrad wasn't like top 10, my law school wasn't top 10, I still ended up at the top law firm. So, I'm honestly living my dream right now, and so like I honestly wouldn't change anything for the world, because like my journey is unique, and it just shows that anyone can do it. Anyone can have a different path and still end up at the top.
Yeah, it's organically yours.
Yeah.
No matter what. She said it didn't matter that my undergrad was in top 10, my law school was in top 10, I still ended at the top 10 law firm. I'm amazed at you, and I think you are so wise. And you guys, if you want to reach out to Siam, I'm going to leave her email in the description, and you guys can reach out to her if you have any questions of how it is to, go to law school, apply to law school, what it's like, and then end up at the #1 law firm in Boston, Massachusetts. I am completely proud of you, and I know how hard you worked, and I can't wait to see where you're at in the next 5 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it was a pleasure. You guys, thanks for listening. And this season is filled with a lot of people's stories, not just with education of those who was able to succeed in law school or med school like myself, but friends who have gotten their masters in social work, or friends who found their passion as a pastor, or friends who were able to do dentistry, friends who are in entertainment, friends who are working as just so many different. I don't want to spoil anything, but I
just did.
I know, but I have a great group of people, by the grace of God, that I'm surrounded with and have been able to connect with. And I just want to be able to share their stories, because I've been blessed by their stories, and it helps me keep going. And I hope it helps you guys keep going. And one day, I hope you guys reach out to me, say, hey, I have a story. I think someone will be able to be blessed by it, and will be able to use my life as a blueprint so they can reach their goals and they can tap into their untouched potential. All right, guys, see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.